You mentioned too, like the players that weren't retired as long as some other ones. We also had Jarvis Green on back in February as well, who mentioned the same thing.
Fantastic interview,
and he was saying that they were even giving like selectively different players the benefits first before him, and like they didn't retire.
Yeah,
and they retired after him, or they didn't play as long as him either. So that
yeah.
system.
Oh
is just
no,
a
dude!
mess.
Look,
Yeah.
the NFL is dirty. Post career, they were dirty. They used racial assumptions within the medical community. Race. What was it called? Basically, it was redlining. It was the same thing as redlining, where they set a line and say, this is the ceiling for black players. This is the most we can give them compared to white players who got more.
What a crock of crap.
And this was stuff that the medical field doesn't even use these techniques anymore because they're discriminatory and they're outdated. And the NFL was using those strategies in determining who was approved for their disabilities.
What a crock of bull.
So now they've had to retroactively go back because they got sued. Because it was like, yo, this is evident what y'all did. So the NFL very quietly was like, okay. And they went back into guys that they had been denying and started approving their packages. And, you know, I guess in a way it changes how exposing what they do in that regard makes it a little bit easier for the players, because for a period after that, they just approve everybody because you can't deny it.
It makes me hate the NFL even more as an organization. And everybody that listens to this show, the NFL will never hire me as an analyst. Never. Because of what I have done on my national radio show. I have attacked them on the FM dial. I have attacked them in everything they've done. And if Roger Goodell wants to come on the show and argue it, he will never do that because we're not big enough for him. And even if we were big enough for him, he'd be scared. He'd hide under the rug because that's the type of person that he is, and he'll have nothing to say.
He can't control that. He can't control that environment. That's why he would never do it.
Yeah, but you want to know something?
He doesn't want to be asked those questions, man.
And you want to know something?
Thing, man.
That's a guy that's making $45 million a year. His family has medical for the rest of their lives. He has his own freaking plane. Are you kidding me? The NFL is giving him his own freaking plane. This man can't reach out to the families and the players that have no benefits, that have no more money because they never had enough NFL career or didn't have enough in the NFL.
There's so many guys who never even got their pension.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I remind people when they talk about, football players, y'all make all that. I'm like, look, you're talking about like 10% of the team. 10% of the team is making a lot of money. The rest of these guys are interchangeable cogs that a lot of them, are on their fourth or fifth team by their third year.
Yep.
And I've seen situations where guys are held out of games just because they don't want them to get that last game to be credited, so they can't be on the practice squad anymore.
They tried to do that Gronkowski with his money. Remember that last year? And Tom Brady went back on the field, and he made sure he got that extra $1 million because he knew that if he wasn't on that field, there was no way Gronk was going to get that extra $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a situation as a player, Bobby McRae. Bobby McRae was a defensive end for us early in my career. He went from Jacksonville to New Orleans, got a Super Bowl in New Orleans. He had 2007 year. We had our first game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had 3 sacks in the first half. If he got one more sack in that game, he'd get $2 million bonus.
Wow!
He didn't play the rest of the game.
What? Oh my God!
Like they pay attention to those parts of your contract. And this was a situation where, they kept him from getting the money that he should have been getting for an exceptional day of football. And there are guys who are only going to play 3 or 4 years and they'll be done. And one of those years is a practice squad year. So they need to get those first 3 games to get that accredited season, to be able to get the most minimum pension. And there are actually GMs who will make sure they don't get that, who will keep them from getting that because they want to keep them. They don't want that guy to be exposed to other teams because they like the guy's talent. Wow. And they want to be able to keep him on the practice squad until they really need him.
Despicable.
And that, and then they end up cutting the guy, and the guy doesn't end up getting picked up by anybody else. So he actually missed an opportunity to have his pension, to have his 401k, all these things that he's going to need later in life. to deal with, not only, shoring himself up financially because he didn't make a ton of money because he only played a couple of years, but also to shore himself up from a medical standpoint to an extent. Because he's not, if you don't get that 3-year credited seasons and get your pension, then you're not eligible for line of duty benefits. You're not eligible for insurance benefits. You're not eligible for permanent total disability or any of the psychiatric benefits that they give you to be able to, get a therapist and things of that nature. They don't, you're not able to get any of that. You don't get none of that. And if you don't get that, like, you still put in a ton of work. You're still did a lot of damage to your body, and you have to handle that. You have to pay for it. And that's rough, man. That's not fair.
No, it's not.
No.
That's not fair.
Right. Especially on that line, too. Like, we were talking about Henderson and Stroud earlier, too. And Paul Spicer on the other side was a good defensive end. He would have strived on that if he was able to play the whole season. Yeah, that was – you guys had a nasty defensive line. And statistically speaking, that would have been a big benefit. So that's so bad that they would do that kind of thing, that ownership. I don't know if it was the ownership, the GM, whatever it was on Jacksonville, but yeah.
It's general, man. It's GMs. Because, they put these things are in your contract as not likely to obtain.
Wow.
That's what they're in your contract as. If you get these, we're going to give you this much more money because they're not likely to obtain that. It makes your contract look better. It makes you kind of gives you a little motivation. Hey, I want to get that. So,
of course,
for instance, with mine, they had all AFC honors.
Okay.
Well, I got those the first 2 years of the contract of my second contract. So I got I activated every part of my contract within the first year of having the new deal because I played every play. I didn't have to come out. So. I got, all AFC honors 3 years out of 4 years, I believe, 2 in a row. And then a third one a year after that, for AFC South. And, and that gave me all it basically it bumped my contract up an extra $5 million. So I was like, bet.
Thank God.
But again, like, these things are still, it's still a league where even with the 5-year extension, they don't want you to get the whole 5 years. They only want you to get like 3 or 4 of those years. And then because the last year you hit them over the head, the last year is when you get the backloaded part of the contract. And, and they pay attention to all these numbers because look, man, it's a business, right? So they're looking to keep as much profit as they can, as much in their salary cap as they can, in order to put it towards free agency, put it towards
pricks.
Draft.
They're pricks. That's all I'm going to say about them, Uche. They're pricks. The NFL have been pricks since day one. Since really, it's all about money. It's all about endorsements. Look what they're making. Yeah. Look what they're making right now with the Super Bowl. Every single commercial, it's like it's going up $1 million every single year for one commercial. I mean, last year a Doritos commercial cost Doritos to pay the NFL for one commercial $6.5 million. Are you kidding me? Where's all this money going? Where is the money going? So to me, it's going into Roger Goodell's pocket because that's what he's all about. Every single dollar, every single penny he's getting. So I am just tired of what the NFL has done. They should be treating their players with a little bit more respect. And I just eventually the players are going to have to stand up because this can't keep on going. Look at Patrick Willis. Look at all these players that are retiring because they don't want to deal with the consequences that they're dealing with and what other players are dealing with year after year after year. It's disgusting. It's despicable. After watching Concussion and seeing what they did to Will Smith's character, Dr. I can't pronounce his name, but
Dr. Amalu. Bennett Amalu.
Yes, who I, by the way, I met him at a Concussions event out here in Long Island. He's a very nice guy, very sweet guy, and what the NFL tried to do to him was absolutely despicable.
I mean, they tried to bury that dude. I mean, only thing they could have done worse to Bennett Amalu was try to assassinate him because they tried to do everything else.
Yeah. But they even had it.
It was crazy.
They even had it where you're seeing now some players retire after playing only like 2 years in the league because they just want to play and they're just worried about the symptoms.
Yeah, I mean,
Chris Borland was a great
guys. There was a linebacker from the Niners.
Chris Borland, I was just going to mention him. Yeah, he played 1 year. It was fantastic.
Man. He was like the heir apparent to Patrick Willis.
Yep.
And he said, no, I'm going to go ahead and hang it up. Mm-hmm. Because I think he got a concussion, and he was like, no. Because that's a scary – I had a concussion in 2011 or 2012, I believe. And I mean, it's something else, man. Like, they still tried to get me to play the last game of the season. I'm like, no, there's no way. Like, I can't even like look at a computer screen for like 20 seconds. I start vomiting.
Oh God.
Like, you know, and I actually, you know, I took it super serious because it was like, you know, this is your 6th year, like 6th year in. Don't let these cats put you on a path where, you know, you end up going out there before you're ready. I already know I have a couple teammates who were knocked out on the field for split seconds. They didn't even realize it. And they get up and, you know, we're talking about it the next day in meetings where he's like, man, bro, I don't even know I don't even know how to do, like, I didn't even get hit, but I just blacked out. And then I woke up sitting on the field, and then I just got up. The play was still going. So I just got up and kept running. But, you know, I paid attention to how long it took me to recover. And you know, you're in the protocol until you can get past your baseline test that you took before, you know, the season started, before you went to any OTA practices. They do an actual like battery of tests to see where you are from a cognitive standpoint.
Right.
So my baseline, which is like, you know, let's say, you know, your baseline's halfway on the chart, halfway up between 0 to 100 at 50. I didn't get past 50 for 4 weeks.
Wow.
We were in the off season by the time I passed to get out of the protocol. We were 2 weeks into the off season. So I knew then, I was like, if they say I had a mild concussion and it took me 4 weeks to pass this test, it took like 3 weeks for me to be able to sit there and even finish the test. Because I would sit on because they have the test on the computer, and I would sit there and I would start taking the test. Then I just start sweating. Then I start getting nauseous and dizzy. And they'd be like, get up, you're done. You can't do it. And I would just, you know, this is an independent dude just sitting there watching you take it. And he's like, no. Once you start showing symptoms, you got to get up because you can't continue the test. So I couldn't, you know, for like six days, I couldn't even finish the test.
Wow.
So, you know, by the time I was able to finish it, I wasn't passing it. And then you just slowly start to, and I felt like I was okay. But at that point, because now we're about 3 weeks in, I feel like I'm all right. But then you realize that you're actually like still like 8-9 points under the threshold. So even feeling like you're normal, you're not normal. Your brain still isn't working at the same speed and efficiency that it was because it hasn't recovered yet. So when you see a guy like Tua go down with 2 concussions in 5 days, I would assume he's done for the season. He has to be.
Yeah.
Because a 3rd concussion in 1 season, you're putting your life in danger now.
It's crazy.
You know, and that's where people think, because culturally this concussion thing was kind of made to be a trivial thing. You know, I say that because, you know, back in the 90s, when you have guys like Troy Aikman, Steve Young, these guys going down on concussion, knocked out, unconscious on the field, and then 7 days later they're starting. And we didn't know, you know, we as fans, we don't know that this dude's brain is still really injured.
Right.
And he shouldn't be out there, but he's out there. And then what happens then? You know, boom, you get touched and he's out cold. And then it's just gets worse from there. And then the guy has to retire because you can't keep taking you can't keep having those concussions. And when the hits become less, and when the hits are less violent, but still causing just as much damage, your brain is being pushed too far.